You know that moment when you finally roll into camp after a long day backpacking on the trail and you drop your pack and you feel a lot better, and then you realize that you still need to inflate your sleeping pad. And suddenly that little bit of energy that you had left at the end of the day is now gone because you realize that you now have to inflate your sleeping pad and you're really not looking forward to it. That's kind of the part of the day of a backpacking trip where you just want to relax and do nothing and sit, maybe make a meal, relax a little bit, and you don't want to waste any more energy than you have to. Today, I'm reviewing a tiny $20 backpacking gadget that I think can really help you with this issue, and that's what we're gonna be talking about today. So this is my take on this small rechargeable backpacking fan and whether I think it's worth you taking on your next trip or not. Hey, I'm Luke, welcome to the channel, and my goal is to help you feel safe, confident, and excited to get out on the trail and go backpacking and to just enjoy your time out there. And that's what this channel is all about, so let's get right into it. The gadget I'm talking about today is the Etenwolf Air 3 USB-C rechargeable air pump for like backpacking sleeping pads and pillows and those sorts of things. And yeah, just one of those kind of things you can pick up on Amazon for like 20 bucks. It's a gadget. And you sort of look at it and you think, okay, is that a scam? Is it actually gonna work or not? And that's what we're getting into today. So I'm gonna do a full review of it. The big takeaway here is that it is small, inexpensive, and actually works surprisingly well. And in addition to that, it might be one of those small upgrades for your backpacking kit that makes it all the more enjoyable. So what is this gadget? Actually, it's basically just a small air pump, fan operated air pump that's rechargeable through USB-C. It's really lightweight, fits in the palm of your hand, and doesn't take up much space in your pack. It has a 2600 mAh battery inside of it that you can recharge with USB-C and with your battery packs as long as you kind of have the cable to do that. It also comes with a little light on the bottom of it to help you see what you're doing when you're inflating if you're doing it in the dark. And it also comes with a number of different nozzles so that it can fit different styles of sleeping pads and pillows and inflatable things you might be taking with you out on the trail. So the big thing here is that it really is made for like backpacking gear. So I wouldn't try to use this to inflate like a queen size air mattress when you're camping, something like that. This is really much more intended for backpacking gear and smaller inflatables that don't take as much air. So why does this matter for backpackers and why would you want to take this one out on the trail with you? The obvious and simple answer is that when you're at the end of your day, inflating a sleeping pad by just like air, by just, your breath is actually just really annoying. In addition to that, in cold weather, you actually put moisture into the pad when you're inflating it with your breath, which is not great for insulation. And if you're using a high volume pad like this one, where there is actually no insulation inside of it, it's basically just an air pad. It takes a lot of breath to inflate one of these guys. And trust me, when you are at altitude and trying to inflate 1 or 2 or 3 of these for your group, it takes your breath away really quickly and you end up being kind of dizzy. And I've had that experience before and it is not fun. So this fan fixes all of those issues. Especially for beginners, this pump just sort of removes one more friction point from the equation when you're going out backpacking. So it's one less thing you have to think about when you can use something like this to just do it for you and not have to worry as much about the kind of the expense of trying to inflate one of these things by yourself up at altitude. Let's go over the specs real quickly here. I already kind of talked about most of these, but just to put it in kind of a bullet point form, this is a 2600 mAh battery. It does come with lights that can be adjusted by a couple different levels, so you can do that, blinking, all sorts of stuff. And I hope that didn't blind you right there. And then it also is rechargeable via USB-C and comes with a number of different nozzles so you can inflate different pads and pillows with it. These are the nozzles it comes with. Actually, there's 4 here. So just basically different sizes of nozzles for different types of pads, pillows, inflatables. This is the one that I use to inflate the NeoAir Uberlight that I have at my feet here right now that I showed you earlier. So it basically just fits over the nozzle and it's rubberized, so it kind of has a firm grip on it and it actually just inflates it perfectly fine. But yeah, it comes with all these different nozzles that you can mostly nest inside of each other as well and pack them. So I would recommend bringing these, or whichever ones you need, with you out on the trail. Just bring them in a Ziploc bag, something easy like that. But I can pretty much just nest all of these together just like that, and then I can use it to inflate a number of different things. In addition to it coming with a number of different nozzles, the nozzles also actually connect and lock into the fan, so you don't have to worry about trying to hold the nozzle onto the fan, the pump, and then hold it onto the pad. It actually just locks in, so you can do that on both sides. And another feature of this is that it it does have an inflate and deflate side. So it'll suck the air out or put it in. For me, with a sleeping pad, I don't really need it to deflate the pad because I can just do that manually. That's not a big deal. But for inflating, it is a huge difference being able to just kind of lock this into position, stick it on the pad, and then it inflates the pad in no time at all. And we'll get into the time that it took to inflate a full air pad in just a second. So let's talk about real world experience with this for just a minute. I spent time inflating and deflating this pad right here. This is a full air pad, so there's no insulation layer in the middle of it. So this is all air in here. I inflated it and deflated it, I think 5 times with this pump here on one charge, and I didn't even keep going, but there was more charge on it beyond that. And it took probably 30 seconds maybe for me to inflate this entire pad one time. So it is really fast and really efficient, and it takes almost no battery to do so. Because it inflates it so quickly, you don't have to worry about running out of battery very quickly. So like I said, I was able to inflate it 5 times in like the span of probably 5 minutes, 7 minutes, something like that. So if you're taking this out on like a 5-day trip, you know you can inflate this at least 5 times. And that is really fantastic. I will say with this pump that you do need to be aware that it does make some noise. So if you're out on the trail and you're amongst other backpackers kind of making camp for the day, or you're kind of around wildlife and you don't want to spook it at all, or whatever you want to consider that for, this is going to make noise like a fan. So it is a little bit loud, but thankfully you don't have to run it for very long. So just keep that in consideration when you are around others or around wildlife, that it does have a little bit of noise to it, but thankfully you don't have to run it for very long. So just wanted to make sure I pointed that out as well. That does have a little bit of a noise level to it. I already talked about this a little bit, but also just to mention it again, the LED feature is here. So it has 3 different levels of brightness. You just hold the power button to turn it on and off, and it can strobe and do three different levels of brightness. It's a nice feature. It's nice to have it on if you're inflating the pad in the dark, but otherwise I would definitely not use this as like your primary light source. For one thing, having using the light and using the fan at the same time or even separately is going to drain your battery faster. So if you want to maximize the battery capacity for this, for inflating your pad, I would make sure to not use the light as well. So just as much as you would assume that, using the fan and the light at the same time especially is going to drain the battery, I just wouldn't use it, but it is nice to have as a backup, or if you just need to look for something really quickly, or you can have this turned on while you're inflating your pad so you can see what you're doing. That's really nice. So it's a nice feature, but not the feature that I would use as the reason to like actually go out and buy this specific pump. So there you go. So let's do a really quick performance breakdown of this guy, and we're just gonna go through it really fast here. The speed of the inflation is really good. It's actually better than I think they even market it for. I think they said something like 1.5 minutes. I don't know. It took maybe 30 seconds for me to inflate a full air sleeping pad, backpacking pad. If you had one with a liner inside of it or insulation or anything else that's already kind of inside of it, like foam, any of that stuff, it's going to be even less time, but it took about 30 seconds to inflate a full air sleeping pad for backpacking. So I think that's really great. In terms of usability, really simple. Basically, hold the power button to turn it on, hold the power button to turn it off, hold the light button to turn the light on, tap the light button to change the modes on it, and then just hold the power button to turn everything off. It's really simple, really easy, really usable. For the battery, it's 2600 mAh, as I've said before. It was good enough to inflate my pad 5 times, and it still had charge on it. One thing that I do wish that it would have would be an indicator of how much charge is left on it. There's no indicator on here to show you how much of the charge is left, and that's a little bit of a bummer. So you don't really know how close you are to sort of the end of the battery life when you're using it. What I would recommend is always bringing a battery bank with you to recharge this if you need to. Most backpackers that I know nowadays bring battery packs anyway for their phones, their cameras, their other electronics that they take with them. So I don't think it's a really big deal, but know that it has at least 5 charges on it, probably more than that, or excuse me, 5 like inflations on it, probably more than that, but you might need to bring a battery bank with you just in case so you don't sort of run out of battery. But at the same time, you don't have to use this. You can inflate a pad with your breath. It's not a big deal. It's just definitely more convenient to use this. Now, durability, the build of this and the durability of this does feel pretty consistent and pretty solid. It is made out of plastic. I want you to be aware of that. I wouldn't be worried if I kind of just dropped it on the ground from, hand height, but I would really throw it around in my pack a lot. And if it got in water for some reason, I don't see that there's a lot of like super good water sealing to it. So I'd be a little worried if it got really wet or if you dropped it in water, something like that. So just be aware of that. But for 20 bucks, what you're getting from it is actually really good in my opinion. Before I tell you if this actually has earned a spot in my backpacking kit from here on out, I just want to go through some quick pros and cons for you, and then I'll give you my verdict at the end. Pros: it is lightweight and compact. It is affordable at about $20 right now on Amazon. It inflates pads really reliably, really well, and comes with a lot of different nozzles to make sure you can inflate whatever, pad or pellet you really need to. It has a good battery life. Like I said, it's able to inflate the pad 5 times with no problem, and even more after that. Rechargeable with USB-C, so you can recharge it with your kind of standard current power bank and your charging cable that you probably use for your phone or some of your other devices you're bringing with you. It does have the built-in light, which is handy, not a selling point by itself, but it is handy to have just as a backup and to help it use it while you're inflating your own pad in the dark. Some cons of this guy is that it is built out of plastic, and it is not the most durable plastic I've ever felt in the world, but it doesn't feel flimsy or particularly cheap either. Next con is that it is not necessarily weather sealed. So like I said, I'd be a little bit worried if I dropped this in a lake or a stream or something like that while it's filtering water. I'd be a little bit worried about sort of its weatherproofing in that case. Another con is also one of the pros that it has an LED on it. So be careful to not try to run the LED and the fan at the same time. You can do that, but you're gonna drain battery life even more quickly if you start using the LED a lot. And the final con is really basically if you're using it for the wrong scenario, but I would not want to be using this to inflate large air pads for camping or similar situations like that. But honestly, if you're bringing a queen size air mattress with you on a backpacking trip, you have other things to consider about your pack beyond just a little fan. So who is this fan pump actually for? I would say it's really good for beginners who just want to remove one more friction point from their, couple of their first trips. It's also really good for people who just hate to manually inflate their pads. I'm kind of in that list. It's good for people who are using higher volume sleeping pads. So like I said, like the full air ones, not ones with a liner or foam inside of them, which is the one that I was using as an example earlier. And it's also really good for groups of people who are trying to inflate their pads all together. So in a number of different situations, I've been the one that sort of inflated everybody's pads in a group just because I'm the one setting up camp while they're getting food ready, whatever it is. And to have had this with me at the time would have been really handy because at the end of inflating a couple of sleeping pads at 11,000 feet, I was pretty dizzy. So it would have been really handy to have this at that time. The one thing I would say is that this is probably not for ultralight backpackers that are trying to cut every single ounce, but for those who don't mind a couple of extra ounces for the convenience and quickness and reliability of inflating a sleeping pad really easily and really well without using your own breath is a really good option. So should you buy it? Here's my honest take. For me, I think it has earned a pretty permanent spot in my backpacking kit. For $20, I don't see how you can really go wrong, at least keeping it in reserve. So keeping it sort of in your collection of things that you might take backpacking and then making choices as you go. So if you're going on through hikes, maybe not, because it's just one more device you need to be charging constantly, not constantly, but it's one more device you need to be charging that's not really necessary. So if you're doing an ultralight trip or trying to be a very lightweight trip, maybe not. But for the average backpacking trip, especially like a weekend trip or a 5-day or 7-day trip, I think this is gonna be a really great option for you. And it's definitely earned a spot in my like 5-day, 7-day backpacking kit. If you liked this video, make sure you also watch my video on the gear that has never let me down a single time. I'll have it right up here for you. So make sure to click on that and watch that video, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks.